Well, welcome and good morning, everyone. Lieutenant Governor Stratton and I are here today to mark another milestone on Illinois' journey to ultimately end domestic violence. We're joined today by incredible partners in that mission. First, from our public safety team in state government, Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority Deputy Director Sharice Williams and Illinois State Police Assistant Deputy Director Robin Woolery. Among the passionate advocates, I want to recognize Sarah Block, the Director of Advocacy at Ascend Justice, and Cassandra Tanner Miller, a survivor who has turned her family's tragedy into a mission to raise awareness about domestic violence. She tragically lost her son, Colton, to an act of violence that could have been prevented if authorities had responded to Cassandra's warnings appropriately. She has honored her son's memory every day and his life by working to protect other children from Colton's devastating fate. I would also like to thank the bill's sponsors and supporting legislators here with us today for their commitment to uplifting the needs of victims and their loved ones. Senators Villanueva, Peters, Resin, and Morrison, and Representatives West, Welter, Stonebeck, Mueller, and Collins. There are sponsors who could not be here today but have demonstrated unwavering dedication to this issue. House Leader Robin Gable, Senate Leader Kimberly Lightford, Senators Rochelle Crow and Patricia Van Pelt. Thanks to the work of Illinois advocates and policymakers, Illinois has been a national leader in addressing domestic violence. Nearly 40 years ago, our state passed the Illinois Domestic Violence Act to protect survivors. That was a dozen years before Congress passed the first Violence Against Women Act at the federal level. But until all our families are safe, we can always do more. Since I became governor, the General Assembly and I have worked together to help reduce the number of obstacles that victims face, strengthening FOID card enforcements to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people, allowing for the omission of survivors' addresses from court filings, and providing additional funding to Illinois' statewide network of domestic violence service providers in the early months of the pandemic, when the pandemic was surging and when stay-at-home order was the last thing that someone experiencing domestic violence wanted to hear. And today, I'm very proud to be signing 7 more bills that remove some of the obstacles that survivors face, starting with increasing institutional supports for families impacted by domestic violence. Currently, Illinois law allows victims of domestic or sex-based violence and their families to take time off work to seek medical assistance, work through trauma, and take steps to keep themselves safe without worrying about whether they'll lose their job. Well, today we're expanding the definition of family in Illinois to ensure that all families, in particular LGBTQIA+ families, are afforded this important time off to recover. In addition, the bill affords all victims of violent crime the same protection in recognition that all survivors of violent crime deserve economic security and safety while they begin to heal. We're also moving toward a world where financial considerations don't have to prevent you from leaving an abusive partner. Hiring counsel for divorce proceedings is an expense that many cannot shoulder, and today Illinois is removing that barrier. The next bill that I'm signing allows individuals to request from the court that the opposing party be required to help pay for an attorney, advancing a world where economic stability doesn't hinder equal footing. We're also extending support to children in our schools, as the trauma of abuse doesn't disappear when a child enters a classroom. Instead, academic pressure, a lack of privacy, social stresses can compound trauma in what should be a safe space. To help our kids heal and succeed, Illinois will require that K-12 schools provide trauma-informed support and resources to students, including staff trained in how to respond to abuse. And we're creating a forensic science commission in Illinois, putting Illinois' crime labs in the forefront of shaping a system where victims' and survivors' needs come first. This initiative was put forth by the Illinois State Police, who are often the first call in response to domestic violence. In addition to addressing domestic violence after it has happened, we're investing in protecting our residents from experiencing violence in the first place. That's why, in honor of Colton, Illinois will be convening a new task force and a multifaceted committee. One will identify gaps that leave families vulnerable to violence so that we can best address them, conducting a comprehensive review of domestic violence, fatalities, and policies across the state in conjunction with ICEJA. The other will focus on reducing fatalities by supporting domestic violence investigations across the state, with a specific focus on under-resourced communities. To Cassandra especially, thank you for sharing your story with us and with me. These task forces reflect your courageous work to fight for others. Both will play a vital role as we seek to further address the scourge of domestic violence. I'm also very proud to announce today a new tool that will make life easier for those with protective orders. Courts can now issue hope cards, which display the details of a protective order so that a person can carry proof of their circumstances with them in their back pocket. It's a small but simple thing that we can do to make life easier for those who have already been through so much. Every difficult choice and obstacle we eliminate for victims of domestic violence unlocks an opportunity for them to prioritize their safety. While our work to make Illinois a safer and more compassionate state for survivors is not done, I am truly heartened by the steps that we are taking today. With that, I'll turn it over to my partner in governance, who is guided by empathy every step of the way, and that's our Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton.
Thank you, Governor Pritzker, for your leadership, your vision, and working so hard every single day to make life better for the residents of our state. Every Illinoisan deserves to live free from violence, whether in their communities or in their homes, and that is our aim. According to the Illinois Coalition Against Domestic Violence, in 2019, there were 43,319 adult survivors of domestic violence living in Illinois. These survivors and their children received 52,000 hours of housing, employment, and education support, spent over 376,000 nights in emergency shelters, and received 130,000 hours of legal advocacy and support. So the issue of domestic violence is critical across Illinois. It is not just an urban or suburban or a rural issue. It touches every community. And while domestic violence has impacted all races and ethnicities, Black and Latinx and Hispanic residents are overrepresented in people seeking domestic violence services in our state. And we know that veterans also face unique challenges with potential co-occurring connections between domestic violence and PTSD. This is why the 7 bills being signed by the governor today, thanks to the leadership of the legislators with us today and those that could not be with us today, these are continuing our efforts to support and empower survivors and help them heal and be strong in the face of adversity. The bills being signed today will help Illinois gather more information, protect the rights and safety of people who have experienced harm, including our children, and provide opportunity and empowerment for survivors of gender-based violence. I am so proud to chair the Illinois Council on Women and Girls, created through legislation by one of today's chief bill sponsors, Representative Anna Moeller and Senator Jackie Collins. Like those here with us today, the women appointed to this council have put a spotlight on gender-based violence as we work towards a state that is free from violence, a state that protects cisgender and transgender residents and people who do not fall into the binary, a state that protects queer people, a state that creates spaces that are free from violence so that everyone might live up to their full potential. Thank you, Governor Pritzker, for signing these bills into law. And thank you to the members of the General Assembly, agency leaders, advocates, and survivors for pushing for these measures that will make such a difference in the health and safety of Illinoisans. And I particularly want to thank all of the bill sponsors who have already been acknowledged by the governor for your leadership in shepherding these bills across the finish line. Because of you, we are equipping individuals, courts, and the state with tools necessary to create a safe and healthier Illinois. Finally, sending you so much love, Cassandra. May you find strength in the power of this day and the work that is being done in Colton's honor. With that, I'd like to bring up a fierce advocate for safe and strong families and chief sponsor of Senate Bill 685, Senator Selena Villanueva.
Good morning, everyone. Families across Illinois are counting on us to take proactive steps to prevent and to end domestic violence. According to statistics from ICEJA, from last year, about 42% of women in Illinois have experienced domestic violence at some point in their lives. Last year alone, nearly 30,000 people called into the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline for help, and about 15% of all homicides were connected to domestic violence. These tragedies could have been prevented. The commission formed with SB 685 creates dedicated teams of advocates and survivors to craft violence prevention policy, to make policy recommendations in response to unique cases in their communities, and in turn save lives across Illinois. Our plan lays the foundation for this by gathering advocates, survivors, and other stakeholders to make tangible changes to the ways that we address domestic violence. It is imperative that as we move towards more holistic approaches to addressing systemic issues in our state like domestic violence, that we do so by examining how systems respond to survivors, by tearing down any barriers in order to make sure that we have more effective responses, and to improving intervention strategies. There are about 200 similar teams across the country that currently do this type of work, and until today, there were none in Illinois, but this bill will change that. I'm so proud to be here today as Senate Bill 685 is signed into law. I'm grateful to the governor and the lieutenant governor for their commitment to helping the families and our communities and children in Illinois to stay safe from domestic violence. And I want to acknowledge the advocates and the House sponsor, Representative Maurice West, because without their hard work and their tireless commitment to ensuring that the voices of survivors are heard and present, we would not be here. Thank you. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce my colleague and friend, Representative Maurice West.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here for the bill signing of Senate Bill 685. I come to you from Rockford in the northern parts of our great state of Illinois. This is a savoring moment for myself and the advocates that I worked with on this particular legislation. For a year, we had a working group that met on a bi-weekly basis. And at some points, we even had a conference on understanding what a domestic violence fatality review team looks like so that we can make sure it's effective here in the state of Illinois. I would like to real quick thank Ascend Justice, Sarah Block. She was our facilitator for our working group, and she did a phenomenal job leading us to the finished product of which Governor Pritzker will be signing today. The city of Rockford that presented this bill to me initially, Colton's Legacy with Cassandra here as well, Crisis Center for South Suburbia, Harbor House, Illinois Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Lifespan, Oasis Women's Center, Phil, Milsk, Quinata, Remedies Renewing Lives, Safe Journeys, Sarah's Inn, the Network Advocating Against Domestic Violence, and the 17th Judicial Circuit Court. All of us got together throughout the year and came up to this place, to this point where we are here today with Governor Pritzker signing our bill. Domestic Violence Fatality Review Commission is a multi-agency and multidisciplinary group whose purpose is to review domestic violence-related fatalities and near fatalities to identify potential obstacles or breakdowns in systemic interventions, barriers to safety, and gaps in the community's services, and consider alternate and more effective systemic responses in order to prevent future fatalities. Instead of being reactive, we're being proactive. And I'm really excited about this. And Governor Pritzker, thank you. Lieutenant Governor, thank you as well. And to Senator Selena Villanueva, my good friend in the Senate, for helping us get this to the point where we are. Now I would like to give it to my friend that hails from Morris, Illinois, Representative David Welter.
Thank you, Representative West. Thank you, Governor, for being here and signing these pieces of legislation. Colton's task force is named after Colton Miller. Colton Miller was a beautiful, happy, perfect boy from my district whose life was tragically taken from him as a direct result of domestic violence. On September 21st, 2019, Colton gained his wings. We call it Colton's Angel Day. We have here with us today Cassandra Tanner Miller, Colton's mother, who has worked every step of the way to make sure that this became legislation. On September 21st of 2019, Colton's father broke into their home and looked Cassandra and her daughter in the eyes and asked if they were ready to die that day. Cassandra swears she saw the devil, and I believe she did as well. He proceeded to beat Cassandra, knock her unconscious, attempted to kill their daughter before ultimately going in to their bedroom and shooting 18-month-old Colton before taking his own life. The coward took his own life after that. That tragic experience that Cassandra went through that day led her to my office only weeks after her son was murdered. She came into my office and she set Colton on my desk. And that was the first time that I met Colton in his urn. I've never got the opportunity to meet him while he was with us on earth. That was a shock factor, and it was needed. I think about Colton just about every single day and how we could prevent future fatalities like Colton, an innocent, beautiful baby boy who did nothing to anybody and nothing to deserve this. So as Cassandra sat with me in my office and we wept, and she told me her story and how she pleaded for help. She pleaded for help. Not to just one government agency, not just to the court systems, not just to the military in which he was serving. She was begging for help, and we failed her. We failed her as a state, as a community, and it was from that point that we decided we couldn't accept that. And Cassandra and I met with many of our local prosecutors, law enforcement, to figure out what was some legislation we could put forward to prevent this in the future. And as we discussed things and we looked at different legislation we could put forward, there was not one piece of legislation that would have completely prevented this situation. So as we looked, we decided to pull in more community partners and stakeholders from across the state and even the country. And we decided a task force would be the best opportunity at this point to force maybe some individuals who haven't been at the table to be at the table and have the tough conversations, and to ultimately look at best practices across the country and put those forward to the General Assembly so that we can pass additional legislation that will protect those in the future. But Cassandra, who's here with us, I have to say you are so tenacious, so brave, so resilient. To see what you've done out there with Colton's legacy in spreading the message and trying to ensure that no family has to experience what you had to experience. I know you've saved lives already. I know I put you in contact with women and families going through terrible situations. You've talked them through it. You've given them the courage, and you have saved lives. With that, I would like to bring up the Senate sponsor, Senator Sue Resin, also from Morris, who has been a partner with us this entire time to ensure that we've got this bill through over the finish line and to the governor's desk and ultimately here today for the governor to sign. Senator Resin.
Thank you, Representative Welter, for all of your work on Colton's Law. I would like to say that this task force creates a domestic violence task force to establish consistent, uniform statewide system to protect victims of survivors of domestic violence while holding the offenders accountable. The act is dedicated in the memory of Colton Miller and the lives that were lost as a result of domestic violence. Cassandra, who is with us today, I'd like to say that you have shown that one person can make a difference. You have shown us what courage looks like, and you are the person who is the voice for everyone who suffers at the hands of domestic abuse. So thank you. Governor Pritzker, Lieutenant Governor, thank you for understanding and supporting this bill and signing it into legislation today. Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce Representative Anna Muller.
Good morning. Thank you to Governor Pritzker for signing House Bill 3223, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton for her leadership on the Council for Women and Girls and her role as the Lieutenant Governor, and to Senator Lightford, who couldn't be here today, for her hard work in making today's bill signing a reality. House Bill 3223 was introduced to eliminate the barriers that stand between survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, or young parents in achieving their education. According to the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, by age 18, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 7 boys experience sexual violence. In particular, children of color are disproportionately affected by this violence, and rather than receiving support in school, are more likely to be routed to the juvenile justice system after experiencing trauma. We also know that students who are experiencing unplanned parenthood often derail their learning and leads to 26% of all high school dropout cases. House Bill 3223 confronts these intricate and sensitive issues by providing schools with concrete, trauma-informed guidelines for helping students. We know that schools are already working with students who are victims or are pregnant, but this law makes sure that they're doing it in the right way. This law clarifies and guarantees specific responses to students in need. It allows excused absences related to students surviving violence, being pregnant, or parenting. It ensures that one staff member at each school can help students and connect them to the resources that they need to get help and healing. And it also creates confidentiality protocols to help students feel safe to disclose when they need help. This law is the culmination of many, many hours of listening sessions and discussions with young survivors, teenagers who are parenting, school districts, advocates for survivors and students, the State Board of Education, and school management organizations. It is an important first step towards helping those who have experienced terrible trauma and young parents stay in school and go on to live healthy and productive lives. I can't leave here today without recognizing the true champions who worked for many years to make this law a reality. They work every day to make our world a better place and improve the lives of those affected by domestic and sexual violence. These champions include Madeline Baer from the Chicago Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation, Wendy Pollack at the Shriver Center on Poverty Law, and Julia Strelo at the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center. I also want to thank Sarah Buning of ICASA and Amanda Elliott at the Illinois State Board of Education for her guidance and assistance during the bill negotiations. I was very proud to be part of this critical effort, and I'm proud to stand here today as House Bill 3223 is signed into the law. Thank you. And now I would like to welcome Representative Denise Stone back from the 16th District to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Governor Pritzker and Lieutenant Governor, for your leadership on this critical issue. Addressing domestic violence is so important to building healthy families in Illinois. Currently, when an order of protection is granted, the petitioner must keep a certified copy of the order with them at all times in case law enforcement needs to enforce it. Even in the best situations, paper degrades over time and gets folded, bent, ripped, and the print may become illegible. House Bill 3485 starts the Hope Card program in Illinois. A Hope Card is a laminated card similar in size to a driver's license, containing information on the order of protection, including the case number, active dates, and a photograph of the respondent. The Hope Card system will allow those protected under a plenary order of protection to have a convenient and durable way to carry the information with them, and also to have something simple to give employers, administrators of a child's school, or anyone who may need to be aware of the protective order. These laminated cards are far less likely to degrade or to be lost over time and are much more convenient for victims of domestic violence. I am thrilled to have introduced this legislation, which passed unanimously and is now being signed by the governor. In addition, I'm incredibly proud Illinois has taken another important step to ensure survivors of domestic violence are protected with the passage of House Bill 3484. By ensuring both spouses have access to fair and equitable legal representation, this bill will help victims achieve financial independence and overcome one of the greatest barriers survivors face when leaving an abusive relationship. I would like to thank the advocates, the Senate sponsors, Senator Morrison and Senator Crow, and especially the North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic and the Illinois State Bar Association and all of the supporters for their help and support. I commend the General Assembly for unanimously passing both these bills and the governor for advancing justice for survivors of domestic violence by signing the bills into law. Thank you. And I would like to introduce Senate sponsor, Senator Julie Morrison.
So often the bills we pass in the General Assembly have very complex legal descriptions, intricacies that we debate for a long time. This bill, the Hope Card bill, is not that bill. This bill is common sense, concrete, literally in your hands solution to, as the House sponsor just described, the pieces of paper that a victim gets when they walk out of the courtroom. That coffee will stain, that will get folded, that will be mutilated, that can become unlegible. But the first three are free. Hope cards go into a backpack, go into your back pocket, go into your wallet, so simply. So I'm very proud to be associated with this bill and have been the Senate sponsor. It's discreet, it's practical, and it is durable. And I want to thank all the advocates for encouraging us to work towards this goal and to thank the governor for his support in signing it. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague in the Senate, Senator Peters.
Thank you, Governor Pritzker. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, Leader Gable, who could not be here with us, who really pushed and led when it came to this bill. Thank you, Dr. Tracy Kurtzer. And I want to especially say thank you to Evangeline Cermak Cooper and all the survivors of violence out there. Evangeline lost her son, Yaquez, to gun violence and has committed her life to pursuing shared public safety for all. The expansion of VESA, the Victims Economic Security and Safety Act, to include survivors of crime and their family members is important for us in building a truly safe and just Illinois. If we want safety, it's not going to come from the shock value of stock photos and mugshots. It will be when we invest in people, like survivors, who've experienced pain or loss and need time off to gather themselves and their family. Time off to seek medical help or legal help or even to relocate. Need time off to process the trauma and pain of loss and or harm. We must think of real safety and justice policies that put survivor safety at the forefront without recreating the conditions that caused the harm in the first place. Everyone in Illinois deserves to feel safe. So as we deal with these three crises, the pandemic, the economic, and the inequities in public safety, let us continue to be bold. Illinois is a state to be proud of. Illinois is leading the country. I repeat, leading the country in reimagining and building public safety for all and not just a few. America, look towards Illinois. We are doing amazing work, bold work, and stuff I am proud of. I've said this before at a press conference, but when I flew to California, I put a hat on, Illinois, land of Lincoln, and I told them, be more like Illinois. So thank you, everybody. And next up, my friend and a fighter in the pursuit of justice, Representative Lakeisha Collins.
Good morning. First, I would like to say thank you to all of the advocates and survivors. Thank you to Senator Van Pelt, who could not be with us today. And thank you to our great Governor, J.B. Pritzker, and Lieutenant Governor for signing this legislation into law today. The legislation that I am referring to is Senate Bill 920. With forensic science being such an integral part of the work that our state police do to provide justice for crime victims, we must do everything we can to ensure that services are being delivered timely and as professionally as they possibly can. And I am confident that with this legislation being signed today into law, that the Illinois Forensic Science Commission being officially started, we can do just that. A collaborative commission under Senate Bill 920 will allow our state's crime labs to address the critical issues facing the evolving field of forensic science and improve policy and training to expedite forensic laboratory turnaround times. Today's signing is just one step in ensuring Illinois' success and leadership in forensic science, as well as providing the best possible tools to bring justice to the victims of heinous crimes. I would like to say thank you again to Senator Van Pelt for bringing this legislation forward, to Governor Pritzker and both legislative chambers and advocates for bringing this day into fruition. It has been an honor to carry Senate Bill 920 in the House of Representatives. And now I would like to introduce Robin Woolery.
Good morning. I would like to address this to the governor, the lieutenant governor, and members of the legislature. Thank you very much for your support. By being provided the tools we need, the Illinois State Police Division of Forensic Services has reduced the backlog. The biology backlog has decreased by 62% since its peak in March 2019. The number of pending sexual assault assignments that are more than 6 months old has gone from over 1,000 cases in January 2019 to 56 today. The age of pending biology assignments has been reduced from 247 in May of 2019 to 69 days today. The biology section is completing 38% more assignments per month this year compared with 2019. So for this, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you. At this time, I would like to welcome Governor Pritzker back to the podium to sign the bills.
That might be a record, 7 all at once. Happy to take any questions from members of the media.
Does anybody have Untitled first? Go Untitled. You talked about Cassandra's case and all of the details that went into that. There were so many red flags, and I know some of those have been addressed. You mentioned the vote card aspect. But there was another aspect involving the Illinois National Guard, and Cassandra had reached out to them, said she was concerned about his mental health, his drug use, and basically that fell on deaf ears. You know, they said, well, there's not a lot we can do about that. Are there any plans to address that specific loophole?
So I want to credit Representative Welter and, of course, Cassandra for coming in to see me, to talk to me specifically about that as well as the entire matter. And I reached out to the then relatively new leader, Adjutant General of the National Guard, to raise attention to this. You know, Representative Welter, if you have any comments about this, I'd welcome you coming up. But I would just say it's been important to us to make sure that at the National Guard level, and as you know, they are to a great extent subject to federal law and to military law, and less so domestic law as it relates to domestic violence. Having said that, they are, you know, the Adjutant General is appointed by me. The policies of the National Guard are something that I take great interest in and have served on the Council of Governors for the national government. dealing with policies at the National Guard. So we've raised attention there to make sure that they're providing the right kind of instruction and training to leaders at the National Guard, and hope that they'll continue to do that going forward, not just in the Illinois National Guard, but around the country. I don't know if Representative Welter, you want to add anything to that? Okay, thank you.
We're being so polite.
You are, you really are.
Governor, I want to ask you about 41 school districts now under probation because refusing to go along with your mask mandate. First of all, do you consider, is this a heavy-handed measure or is this necessary? And are you anticipating legal action that's going to tie this up going forward?
What I can tell you is that those schools that are not following the mask requirements for their children are, of course, endangering their children. They're also endangering the people who work in the school, the parents and grandparents who pick up and drop off their children at school. We are living in a very dangerous moment of coronavirus, an upswing of the Delta variant across the nation and here in Illinois. I am deeply concerned, especially that the Delta variant is having an increasingly serious medical impact on younger people. Not just young children who attend school, but older kids in high school and the young teachers who come to work at schools every day. And so we're trying simply to ask people to make sure that people are following a mitigation that we know works. And so I'm very seriously following the number of schools that intend not to follow the mitigation, and we're going to have to impose non-recognition on schools that just won't follow the mitigations. They are endangering the people of their communities when they don't do that.
Where do you stand on a statewide mask mandate as the city of Chicago puts theirs in place today? Certainly, there are a high number of counties with a high transmission.
Well, as you know, I've not been reticent to act when I think it's appropriate to do so on mitigations, and we're always considering every day what next we need to do. I applaud the city of Chicago in taking proactive efforts here. I encourage other local governments, whether they be cities or townships or counties, to also take proactive steps, and we will look at the state level whether that's an appropriate thing at some moment. And again, every day I'm looking at these numbers and talking to Dr. Ezike.
It almost
Yeah.
seems very political, Governor, now.
No, you would like to say that. This is not political. This is every day. As you know, listen, if it was political, we wouldn't have any mitigations. It would be much easier not to have mitigations. The truth of the matter is that I have acted every time I have believed, and the doctors have advised me, that we need to put mitigations in place. We have done it. And so I'm not reticent to do that. We know now that we have vaccines available and masks work. People should follow the science. If you wear a mask and you get vaccinated, you're pretty safe. And I hope that everybody will do that, and I will take action if we see that the numbers can move up in an exponential fashion, which they're not there. But in an exponential fashion, that's something that we'll look very closely at. And again, I talk every day or text or have communication with Dr. Ezike or with her senior staff to try to determine what we need to do on any given day. Also, to be helpful, I'll just add this, to the hospitals, especially in southern Illinois and in areas where there are a limited number of ICU beds that are yet still available, how we can provide more staffing, how we can provide support for those hospitals, which we are doing.
What is your plan to distribute booster shots?
Well, as you know, we've got many, many shots that are in the state of Illinois. We've made them available at virtually every location that you knew about before. Local pharmacies, CVS and Walgreens, large pharmacy companies, as well as at departments of public health and at your physician's offices. Most physician's offices now have that available to them. So we're continuing to do everything that we have been doing to make it widely available and extraordinarily easy to obtain a shot.
Governor, can we go back to the metrics? I know you said the term exponential, but would you be
again, I just reiterate, Craig, that we're looking at the entire state. We're looking at regions, at counties, at cities. We're trying to advise in local areas what kinds of mitigations they may want to consider in that local area that may be different than some other area. So all of this is being taken into consideration. We have all the tools, the menu that you've seen us exercise over the last year and a half of things that we know that work. And so we'll continue to follow that, and I'll continue to listen to, we have some of the best experts really in the entire nation that happen to reside here in the state of Illinois, those who work in state government as well as those who are world-class hospitals.
Governor, you signed a map that is clearly not going to hold up in court. Do you regret signing that map? And especially since you said you were committed to a fair one, what happens now?
Well, I am still committed to making sure that we have a map that reflects the diversity of our state. So if the legislature takes a look at the map that they already have and feels they need to make adjustments to it, then that's obviously something I'll consider at the time.
We're just going back to schools. Are you really going to go through and follow through with full state funding and stop the schools from being able to participate in the sporting events?
If they endanger the lives of the people in their communities, yes, I will.
There have been, so far this year, 157 expressway shootings. Last year, total was 128. I know that the Illinois State Police have obviously been involved, but what else can be done? We've seen a woman coming home from a White Sox game who
Yeah.
could not make it to her home.
Yeah, these shootings are awful, and we've got to take proactive steps, and we are. As you know, there are expressway cameras that are being installed indeed right now to make sure that we're able to read license plates. When we know that shooting has taken place, we'll be able to track somebody who, from whose car that shot has been taken. And of course, we have greater patrols by our state police on our expressways as a result of these shootings. So we're taking proactive action in both ways. We want to prevent them on the one side of it by having more patrols, and on the other side of it, we want to make sure we can catch people who are doing it.
We'll do one more. No?
I know we're kind of badgering you this, but if you can't give us the metric on the mask, it makes folks think that, wow, the city of Chicago has to wear a mask, but boy, if you go out to, I don't know, pick a town, pick a suburb, you don't have to.
But it's always
doesn't seem logical.
It's always been the case, Marianne, that local communities and cities have decisions that they can make that are more stringent on mitigations than what the state, that's always been the case. And there have been moments throughout the last year and a half that you've seen, not just the city of Chicago, but other places that have taken proactive actions that they believe would work in their communities. So I encourage those local community leaders to do so. Indeed, I have celebrated those people throughout the last year and a half because very few, frankly, local leaders, very few elected leaders have been willing to stand up and make tough decisions for their communities. It's about time for some of them, but I want to congratulate folks who actually already do that.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
On the